Hello, Internet, and welcome to Say Report Jr., the podcast you should be listening to, subscribe to, and downloading every week. And the podcast where two Internet friends who have never met in real life get to know each other over the Internet. Dang it, I said Internet too many times. One of these days, we're going to nail that down.
And
I
when we
am one
do,
of
we will
your,
record it and play it every
yeah,
week.
yep. Yeah, one day we'll just like record a solid opening. I am one of your hosts, companions, Zach Sarowick.
And I am your other host companion who shouldn't have taken a drink of water, Dale Decker.
Man, it's been a long like week and a half because I
It's
think last time we recorded it was a Monday.
it was a Monday
So
or a Tuesday, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yep.
it's been a
It's been a
long
while.
9 days.
It's been a
Um,
while.
and I think that means oh God, let's
Sorry.
not try and no, I'm just like flashing back to the Spider-Man theme from last week. We
Oh,
shouldn't
it was
try and
great.
sing together again. Uh,
Oh,
um,
afterwards, by the way, afterwards I recorded like 3 or 4 different versions of me singing it, trying to get like a good one down for us to play if we ever,
so we can
just
slot it in.
yeah, so we can put it in whenever we do spoilers. It's
Fantastic.
great. Uh,
Uh, so I think that means we both have a lot to talk about this week, since it was
yeah,
a long one. So let's
yeah.
jump right into it. How has your week been? And I know sort of what the first answer is going to be, but how has your week been?
It's been an interesting week, to say the least. To say the least. Is
Anytime,
that
anytime
is
like
that an insult?
anytime like 2 days leading up to a podcast, I get a text from you that's like, you need to watch something, and then we need to talk about it, and then we need to find something else to talk about so I feel better. Like, oh God.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, it's been a very media filled week. It's like I've been watching a lot of stuff and seeing a lot of movies, watching a lot of movies and rewatching movies and watching TV and everything like that. But it really started off. Did a retro gaming night, which is the reason why we kind of moved our recording around, is because I wanted to talk about that. And it was really cool. It was like, compared to the retro gaming convention I went to, I mean, the retro gaming night was on a much smaller scale. It was at a bar. But it was
Was it
really
run by any of the same people, or is it
no,
just
no, no,
it
no,
just
no,
happened to
no.
be called okay
Yeah, no, it was just like the same kind of like idea of
vibe?
like just
Yeah.
retro games, and it was like really cool. It was me, Devin, and Jeff, who is a friend of the Say Report. Um,
Jeff, who I believe has been on what their Oscar specials, right? That Jeff?
yes, that
Like,
Jeff.
okay.
Yeah. So it was us three, and we went and just like had a really good time at this bar, and were able to talk to the guy who was running it and had a good time. There were, it was cool because like the three of us got there pretty much when it started and stayed throughout the whole time. It was like maybe 3 hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours long. But it was like really fun to watch like other people from the bar just like poke in and like come in and come out and just play a round of like Mario Kart or something, and it was like really cool, and it felt good like having people just be like, "Oh, I'm going to play this and I got to go." Like I did, like it felt like retro. Like it felt like how video games should feel. Like it really is just like, this is a time passer while I drink a beer and chill out. Like this is just a
I,
fun time for me.
have you ever seen the
Um
last Starfighter?
no, I need to.
So the best thing about that is that the arcade game he's playing is just like sitting outside of like a bar or a gas station or
Oh,
something. It's like the
really?
most
Yes.
random.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like there,
That's
and it's
awesome.
just like you watch it like from. I get well these days it probably makes more sense because you're like, oh yeah, an arcade machine at a bar, that makes total sense. But
Yeah.
for some reason, like when I watched it before that concept like solidified in my head, I was like, how weird to just put like an arcade machine in a bar. I would love that.
I mean, it makes sense. Like I was talking about, there's a brewery around here which has like free arcade games, and it just makes perfect sense cuz there's no real pressure. It's just for fun. It's like it's a chill out kind of thing. And it's weird that it has become such like a competition based thing as well. Like we were able to find competitions to rally around it, but
Right.
it was like really cool just to like go to a bar and sit down and just have like appetizers and just chill out with no pressure on you. and just play these like retro gaming games and all that, you know. So that was how it started. It was really fun. Um, and then I saw Venom. I almost called it Carnage. I don't know why, but
No, that one comes next
that
by all
one's
reports.
yeah somewhere sometime in I don't know, but so Venom. So I saw Venom. Freaking fantastic, and I can't wait to talk about
Oh,
it.
I know.
When you
I gotta find a
eventually
way to
see
see it.
it. It was just so much fun. Like, I don't want to go into too much detail because I am 100% positive that we are going to have an episode about it. But yeah, it was just insanely fun. Like, I had a smile on my face the entire time, and
I
it's
remember.
exactly what you want out of a Venom movie.
Yeah, like I remember when the trailer came out, and I was like, okay, here's what I'm noticing from this trailer right away. 90% of the people in this movie are going to take it super
Yep.
seriously, and it's going to be like we're going to do this all dark and serious. But then Tom Hardy and Venom are just going to be like, why the fuck would we take this seriously at all? We're coming in here to just have some fucking
Yeah.
fun, and like that's what I wanted was this like campy movie where everyone's trying to do something serious, and Venom's just like, nah, fuck that,
Mhm.
no seriousness for us. We're just here to just mess things up.
And I mean, that's pretty much what you get. So
Yes.
it's
Perfect.
it's a fun one. It is definitely a fun one. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit too much on that because like I know we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I gotta go.
So
I gotta go out of town this weekend, and I will probably find a way to get to a movie
yeah,
theater. And I'm looking for something to see, so I'll probably see that.
hopefully,
Perfect.
maybe that'll be our next week's episode. Let's stay tuned. Um, so then Friday was my other day off, and I did nothing, and it was glorious. I did laundry and sat on the couch and just watched Netflix, which is something that I don't normally do. Um, I usually am either like I'll either play a video game or like do chores or something like that or like go out somewhere. I haven't sat on the couch and just watched Netflix for like hours in a real long time. But I watched a show and we're gonna save it for near the end of the episode, because I got a lot to say about it, and immediately stopped watching that show because spoilers, did not enjoy it. Stopped watching it and then continued
About 10 minutes into episode 2.
about 10 minutes into episode 2. Yes, exactly. And then I watched and finished season 2 of Episodes, which I don't know if you've ever heard of or watched.
I have heard of it, but I have not watched it yet. But I have always been very interested in it.
It is so good, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, that's good. I always feel like
Um,
I always look at episodes and realize that the show is still like going. I think it like
yeah, there's
and so
like
like
5 seasons of it.
yeah. And every time I see its existence, I go, "Oh, thank God, Matt LeBlanc is still working."
Yeah.
Like I feel like
It's such a good it's so funny. So Episodes, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically a British couple has a like award-winning, like well-renowned, everybody loves this show in Britain and in England and all of that, and everybody loves it. It's called Lyman's Boys, and it's about a like headmaster at a school at a boarding school or whatever, and it's like the stuff that goes on in there. And an American network producer is like, we want to make an American version, which happens so often, and it is usually terrible. The American version
coupling was so bad. I think it lasted 3 episodes and got cut out.
I mean, there was they made the IT crowd. They made an American pilot, and then nothing ever came of it.
Then it became The Big Bang Theory. Didn't anyway.
But like I mean, In Betweeners, there was a remake of that. There was a remake of Skins. Like, there's all these remakes that are. And the American version is usually way worse.
For the Doctor Who revival, they were going to make Doctor Who in collaboration with BBC and Fox.
Really?
And the only thing to come out of that is the Doctor Who movie starring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, and it is the only time he has ever played the Doctor until like years later for the Day of the Doctor special. They did like a short with him.
Oh, Oh God.
But that is the only time Paul McGann ever got to play the Doctor because they did this TV
Yeah.
movie that was going to be a pilot for Fox, reviving Doctor Who in like 1996, and it is one of the most glorious and terrible things I have ever seen,
Jeez.
including Eric Roberts as like the bad guy. Oh God, it's so good. But it is like so clearly like they had no idea what to do with this
What they
British
were doing
property
it.
except
Yeah.
make it as American as possible.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. So that's what this show is about. Is that they're like they agree to it because they get to go to LA and they're like, hey, like it's something new to do and let's just do it. Let's go for it. And they of course are promised like, hey, you'll be able to have your original Lyman. Like he will be able to come from your show to our show. And I don't know his name, but it's the uncle from the Harry Potter movies
Okay.
who is playing Lyman, and they make him re-audition for the part, and he gets in there, and they're like, "Can you do it in a Texan accent? Like, can you be a Texan for this?" And he tries, and he like uses this Texan accent, and it is awful. He starts sweating. He is fumbling over words, and it's dialogue that he has known for years, and he is fumbling over it, and it is the worst audition that you've ever probably seen, and it just is so painful to watch. And then they hire Matt LeBlanc, and Matt LeBlanc is to be Lyman, and Matt LeBlanc is like an alternate dimension Matt LeBlanc. It seems
Is he
like
playing himself? Like, is he named Matt LeBlanc in the show?
Yes.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that. I
yeah,
assumed he was just
so-
playing a character. That's even better.
No, so it's Matt LeBlanc playing Matt LeBlanc, but in my opinion, like I've seen Matt LeBlanc. I don't want to keep saying his name because his name is so like weird.
I want you
just
to. I want to go
continue.
back to this first name basis you were about to do. I've seen that. I've seen
really
what.
was
I've seen
about
what
to
Maddie
do
can
that.
do.
But it's so I've seen him do like interviews and whatnot, and he just seems very reserved and really chill and calm, and he is so not that in episodes. So it's
That
this
must be-
really weird thing. It's and it's crazy. It's crazy to watch because it's like this can't be who Matt LeBlanc really is. Like obviously he is playing a character of himself, and I appreciate the hell out of that.
It must be really fun to do. To be like,
yeah.
like especially like after Friends, and then Joey flops and all of that stuff, and like he's never. I mean, aside from Lost in Space, I can't think of. Oh, there's one.
He's in Man with a Plan, and Man with a Plan is fantastic.
He's also in a monkey movie.
Yeah, Ed. Ed,
Thank
do
you.
not
Yes.
badmouth Ed.
No, I'm just saying I couldn't remember what it was called. I just remembered like that's all I remember is Matt LeBlanc and a monkey. So
He is a chimpanzee, and that
Sorry.
movie is fantastic.
so
all
like
right?
to be able to like take all of that from that past and bring it into a character where you just get to play
Oh, yeah.
yourself, and like this is probably this being his second most successful role is just being him goofing off
Yeah.
with the fact that he's himself
Yeah.
is probably just extremely fun for him.
Yeah, he's just a jerk. Like he plays a jerk. But there are moments where he doesn't like it's almost like he doesn't understand he's a jerk. Like there are moments where he's like, yeah, I was an asshole. Like that I can't believe I said that to you and I am sorry. But like and yeah, he does he just doesn't think, and then after the fact he's like, I can't believe I did that, I am sorry. Or it's like the inverse where it's like that's a jerk thing to do. Like it's almost
What?
like
That's not
Hollywood,
how you be a human being? I
yeah,
didn't know that.
it's almost like kind of what's the word? It's like a thing to be spoken of Hollywood too. It's like he's so used to like seeing other people being this way and acting this way, where he acts that way, and you have these this English couple saying, "What are you doing?" And he's just like, "What? That's Hollywood. Like this is how
he's
people
got that
act.
kind of
This
yeah,
is
he's
how
got that kind of like American
Yeah, like-
celebrity bubble that he's like stuck in.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's really cool to watch them kind of teach him how to be a human being, and yet he really doesn't learn from it. He learns from it at in some spots in season 2, which is the what I finished on Friday. But yeah, I highly recommend it. It is
Oh,
so
good.
so much fun, and it shines like a pretty cool light on the cross between British television and American television, and British humor versus American humor. And
Right.
British humor is just better in
In
a
a lot of
lot of
ways, yes.
ways. It is a reason why I watch British now. Why now I am watching British game shows and British comedians, and why I've always been really watching that, even as a kid. Is what I was watching that kind of stuff. The only humor that I don't really love is Monty Python, and which is crazy, but it's kind of has its own baggage in that I was forced to watch Holy Grail, like search for
Oh
the Holy
God.
Grail on a band trip with all these band geeks
Oh yeah,
who
that's the
were
worst way.
quoting the
Yep.
entire movie.
That is the
I
worst way to watch that movie. That is
and
absolutely the worst way
yeah,
to watch that movie for the
yeah.
first time.
So I have real bad memory connections to Monty Python. So I'm
Well,
just gonna
if
stay
I
away from that.
but if I can make a suggestion then to connect it to episodes. So the woman that's in that I'm just looking her up because I had to get her name.
Yeah.
Tamsin Greig, I think is her name.
Is she who plays
Uh, she plays. I'm just looking at now because that would be Beverly. She
Beverly?
plays Beverly.
Okay, she does play
Yes.
Beverly.
So she is on a show called Black Books. I don't know if
Okay.
you've ever watched it.
No.
So the other guy. So it's really funny because it's like all of these side people who have come across like Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost stuff are
Mhm.
all the main characters in this show. And Simon Pegg and Nick Frost actually show up in a couple of episodes as like side characters for 1 or 2 episodes. But Black Books is about this guy, I forget something black that owns a book like used bookstore,
Uh-huh.
but he is completely drunk and angry all the time, and
Oh, okay.
he could give two shits about the shop actually like being profitable. He just likes to have the excuse to sit in a store and drink all day. And she plays like his best friend who like owns like the shop next door or something, and spends half her day coming over and drinking wine with him in the
That's
shop.
fantastic. Like I want to watch that now. But
Um,
she is fantastic. I
yeah,
love her. I never knew her actual name until now, but I love her. She is
yeah, she's so
so
good.
funny.
Yeah, she's very funny in that show, and just in general, I've never seen her not be
Mm,
excellent things. So that's good.
yeah.
I'm glad that episodes is so good.
Yeah,
Um,
and I was just I was like, I'm just gonna try it. I'm gonna watch it. Malablanc's in it. Let's see where it goes. And it, man, does it? It grabs me. So like it just hits some points. I don't know. It's made me cry. It's made me laugh out loud. It's so much fun. It is so much fun. Yeah, so that's really been my week. The other stuff really is just more television whatnot, and I rewatched Shallow Hal, and that movie is terrible.
yeah,
That movie is
yeah.
awful.
Especially after we talked about I Feel Pretty,
Pretty?
like
Yes.
like that was like a. I was like surprised when you texted me that. I was like, why would you go backwards from that even?
I know.
Uh,
I know. But it's really just a bad movie. It
yeah,
is
I got a
so
strong
bad.
feeling. I got a strong feeling the Farley brothers will not be remembered as fondly as they were like in the last 10
Oh
years.
yeah, no. No, I don't think so at all. And then finish Get Shorty, the season 2 of Get Shorty, which I don't know if you've been watching
I
or
have
seeing anything of that.
no, I have not
Um
actually seen the show at all.
have you seen the movie?
I've seen the movie, yes.
Okay. The show is not like the movie except for they're working on movies. That's really it. But it's not the same characters or anything like that. It's really
Hmm.
just borrowing basically the movie plot of Get Shorty and the title of Get Shorty. But it's so good. It is such a good like mob drug cartel kind of show and it has so much heart behind it. It's good. If you can get access to it, it's another one that I highly recommend, along with Black Clover, which is also what I've been watching these past couple of days.
See, I've been on that My Hero Academia stretch, so
Yeah.
that's my anime right now.
But yes, that's pretty much been it. Is a lot of just watching stuff and
Yeah,
like
I mean,
getting upset with a lot of it, but then having all of these wonderful things just clouding that anger and being like, it's okay. There are still good things in the world.
if anybody's been following our Twitter feed, if they've seen the list of things I have done in this past week, because I
Yes.
had tweeted that out, and that was mainly because, again, sometimes we have weeks like this where it's like I did one thing all week. I played Spider-Man for 2 weeks and I
Exactly.
didn't do anything else. And then I have weeks where I do a million things and I can't remember half of them because I just am doing too much.
Yeah. This week
But
was really like, oh, I need to talk about. Oh, I didn't even talk about the story that I texted you about last night about me going into the wrong class. Maybe we'll
oh
save that for
God,
later.
yeah,
We'll save that
that'll
for
be
later.
that'll yeah, that's gonna be that's gonna be our bumper at the end of the other
Yeah.
show we haven't
Yeah.
talked about yet.
Yeah, no, but this entire week was like, I need to talk about that. I need to talk about that. All right, this needs to be talked about. like,
Yeah, so well, continuing our TV recommendations, are you done with your week besides that other
oh
show?
yeah, no, I'm done.
Okay.
That was
I-
pretty much my week. I'm
Okay.
excited to hear what you have to say about Tank Girl because
Oh, I
anytime
loved it so much.
anytime I get to talk about Tank Girl makes me so happy.
Well, okay, that's going to be my last thing, so we'll get to that.
Thank
But
God.
before that, we had so I started last week with rewatching Over the Garden Wall. Have you ever watched that?
Okay, so I wanted to watch that, and I watched the first episode, and then was never able because it was on, and I was balancing classes and all that, and
Right.
we didn't have the best cable at school, so you
Right.
had to keep
Uh,
track of the time and all of that.
do you have Hulu now? Is that something
I
that happens?
do. Is it on
Okay.
Hulu?
It is on Hulu.
Oh shit!
And it takes less than 2 hours to watch
Yeah,
because it
it's
is only
super
10
short.
episodes, but it's the Adventure Time Steven Universe set of episodes of like 11 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So 10 episodes, and that's it. It's one season, mini series. It's this beautiful story. So I'm not going to spoil anything then, other than like it's just the story of these two brothers that get lost in the woods and have to find their way home. And so they're going through this very like fanciful forest land to do that. And Elijah Wood is the main character,
Oh,
is
it
the
is
older brother.
Elijah Wood, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd does some voice work in
Mhm.
that too. Like they've got a bunch of good people to come in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it is one of the animators from Adventure Time that like got the opportunity to just be like, hey, I want to do this 10 episode series, and Cartoon Network's like, yeah, sure, go right
Yeah,
ahead.
no, so like I said, I wanted to watch it and I watched that first episode and loved it and then never saw it again. And then Steven Universe came out and I never watched it. And then a show called Star versus the Forces of Evil came out and I have watched every episode of that. And I'm in love with that show. Um like it's so much fun. And I think Sejin has talked about it too.
Yeah,
It
I
is
think he has.
it's
Because
so
I think it's was it Alex Hirsch, that guy that created Gravity Falls? I think also works on Star now. Now that Gravity Falls is done, I want to say.
He might work on it, but it's created by Darren Nefsey, who
Okay.
and I don't think she's ever created anything. I think this is the first like real thing that she has gotten to be on a network or something. I could be wrong, but
I bet you she comes along with Rebecca Sugar of working on like
Yes.
Adventure Time or Steven Universe
yeah,
first.
so
Because that's where Rebecca Sugar started, was Adventure Time, and then was able to pitch Steven Universe,
Mhm.
and they kind of go out from there.
I think
So.
I think like all those guys like they really do work on all of these shows because you see their Twitter feeds and Darren Nefsey has definitely tweeted about Gravity Falls or Steven
Right.
Universe. But when I started watching Star is when I started seeing it being compared and like fan drawings happening with Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, and Over the Garden Wall. So it made me want to watch those 3 other shows. To
Yeah.
the point where in Star versus the Forces of Evil, there are Gravity Fall Easter eggs. Like the
And not-
tourist group from
Yeah.
Gravity Falls shows up in Star.
And actually, one of the things that either just happened or is happening soon is Cartoon Network's doing a huge crossover event with all of their shows.
Yeah.
So like Steven Universe, Star, OK, KO, and something else are all going to be have like a whole connection thing, along with like a bunch of the old cartoons
Oh,
showing up.
really? Wait,
Yeah,
Star is gonna be involved in that? Cause Star is a
or Star is Disney.
Disney.
Oh, Star is Disney. Never mind then.
Yeah.
So it's just even so it's then that's all the Cartoon Network ones.
Oh,
Then maybe
okay.
not
Cause
Star,
that would be
but
freaking awesome.
that would be awesome. But like all of like I Am Weasel and like Cow and
Yeah.
Chicken and
Okay.
stuff are gonna show up in this because they go to like the nexus of all the Cartoon Network cartoon
That's
shows.
awesome. That's
Uh,
insane. Oh my god. That's exciting.
so yeah, so after Over the Garden Wall is when I jumped over to my horror movies for the week, and I watched Rubber. Have you ever watched or heard of Rubber?
I've heard of Rubber. I've heard
What do you know of Rubber?
I've heard pretty much everything of Rubber, but
Okay.
it's a serial killer's brain that gets or consciousness or whatever that
No,
gets put
it's
into the
not.
tire.
See, that's no. See, that's
Okay.
just it. No, here's the funny thing about that. It is an art film that is parading around as a slasher film that is mostly just kind of a cheesy bad movie
Awesome.
because the movie opens up with a shot of, and I'm not kidding when I say this, that like shot of a bunch of chairs on a desert road, and this car starts weaving between them and hitting them and knocking them over, very artsy way. And then the car pulls up, and the director, dressed as the sheriff, because he shows up later as the sheriff in this movie, gets out of the car and starts talking about how half the stuff you see in movies, no one really put any thought into. They just happen for no reason. And so he's like, the first thing he says is, in E.T., why is the alien brown? No reason. It's like, okay, why would anybody ask that question? And he goes through this, but then he starts getting into really dumb places where he's like, in JFK, why did a random guy assassinate JFK? No reason. The whole point to JFK is that you're trying to figure out the reason why he shot JFK. What are you talking about?
What?
And
What?
so basically what he's doing, he's setting up the fact that a bunch of random crap's about to happen in this movie, and they
That's
didn't put any thought beyond other than, oh, I bet it would be funny if a tire came alive and started killing people.
beautiful.
Like, that's
Yeah.
all he's doing.
I have wanted to watch Rubber for so long, and I've just never been able to. Like, I've never been able to have access to it.
It's like it was like it's one of those like $3 rentals right now on like YouTube and Google Play
Oh,
and stuff.
okay. All
That's
right.
how I ended up finding it.
All right.
Because yeah, it was on Netflix for a little bit, dropped off. It's not really anywhere like streaming, quote unquote free for any of the services you're subscribing to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a dumb movie. I've watched it like 3 times, and every time I forget half the dumb shit that happens in that movie because it really doesn't. I mean, he's right in that it doesn't make any sense. It's got no reason to it. The tire, like the first opening 15 minutes of the movie, is the tire becoming sentient and then starting to figure out how to move, and then it figures out it can crush a can, and then all of a sudden it blows up a rabbit.
What?
Don't know why. It just blows up a rabbit.
Because
Like,
it can, damn
I
it.
can do that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
then, like,
why I thought it was a serial killer's brain.
because that makes sense in some way. This is the problem, is that you were thinking that there was a story
Oh
to
my god!
this.
Just made one up.
Oh man, and of course, like the whole time, there's like an audience watching this thing. That he's got like there's like an audience like in the movie watching this thing with a couple of character actors I actually recognize from like Community and stuff, but they're watching it, but they're also like left to fend for themselves in the desert while they're watching this movie go on. It was just like, oh yeah, here's some sleeping bags, now go get some sleep, and the movie will continue in the morning, I guess.
Oh my
And
god!
it's like, oh, it's the weirdest thing. Like, and it honestly has this whole feeling like this guy was like, I want to make this really profound art film about sentience in life and also Killer Tire, I guess. And some studio went, no, we're not going to give you money for that. He went, fine, I'll make it myself. And it just got out of hand from there. Like, it's got this
Amazing.
weird, it's fantastically stupid. I love it.
That's fantastic. I love it. I literally just said the same thing that you said, but meaning a different way of saying it.
I have no idea what sentence you just said.
Okay, you said, sorry, this is derailment of all derailment, but it's like, language is weird. You said it's fantastic and I love it, but you're meaning like the actual movie, because you've
Oh.
seen it. I said, that's fantastic and I love it, because The
Just
idea
the
of it,
concept
the
of it existing.
concept of it, yeah, exactly, exactly that. And it was just like, I just said exactly what Zach said, but I didn't mean it the same way. And I don't know why. That made me stop.
because someone was
Continue.
going to notice it. Someone's going to be like, "You guys are repeating
Yeah.
yourselves." Uh,
why,
so then,
why are you just repeating what each other says?
yeah. So after Rubber, I watched a movie called Found Footage 3D, which
Okay,
is
I
on
saw
Shudder.
that on your list, and I was like, that's not a real thing.
It is. So what it was they were trying to do like a horror comedy parody of found footage movies. I would actually argue that while it was actually a pretty good horror movie that I like found footage movie for when all is said and done. I would say that it was about like I wouldn't have said it was a comedy.
Mm.
Like there are funny bits to it and there are like funny lines to it, but in the same way that there's a lot of like funny bits to Scream, but I would never call Scream a comedy. Um,
Okay, I got you.
but but what it was supposed to be was like a satire of found footage films where this crew is going to go out and make a found footage movie in the way that they're justifying still making found footage movies in 2016 or whatever the movie came out because they're long dead and no one cares about found footage movies anymore. Is they're like, oh, we're going to make it in 3D. And they're like, wait, you need to have a story reason why your found footage movie is in 3D. And so the director's like, oh, we'll film the behind the scenes documentary we're doing in 3D too, and make a whole meta thing about making our found footage movie about making a found footage movie, all of it being in 3D from top to bottom. And really, it's just that the guy is just a jackass, and it's great because like the whole story to the movie is very clearly just the same story going on with the couple that are making the movie because like the director and his ex-wife wrote the found footage movie.
Oh, wow.
And then they were going to star in it, but then they got divorced, and so now they are playing two characters that are in the middle of their marriage breaking apart. It's so like it's just meta weird stupid levels top to bottom.
It's a movie within a movie within
Right,
real
and
life. What?
it literally is that the story that they wrote for their found footage movie is now happening, and that something is coming out of the woods and killing people because of the negative energy that they're putting out from fighting all the time.
Wow.
And then that's exactly what happens is a thing comes out of the woods and starts killing them and their crew because of all the negative energy coming out.
Wow.
Oh, it's so like
that's weird. That's
Yeah.
interesting though.
It was like a really weird. It was like I was like, oh, okay, you actually found like an actual concept that I found interesting in all of this. In that, like, because they even talk, then they get into these like actual conversations about the problems with found footage movies, where it's like, it's really easy to open one up and be like, oh yeah, we're filming stuff for our family vacation. This is great. The problem is you hit Act 3 when someone very clearly should have thrown the camera away and run for their life at that point.
Why do you still have? Yeah.
So
exactly.
so you have to answer the question, why are you still doing that? And the problem was that they all got there, and the guy that had hired them all and put this all together had still not written the final act, so he didn't have an answer to that question.
Oh my god.
And so you start to see all these problems with the production. Oh, it's so good.
That's
it's so
funny.
like it's so
That's
weird.
Really funny.
And really, largely, there's one super bloody scene.
Mm-hmm.
But really, other than that, there's really not a ton of blood to that movie either, which is really interesting.
That's
So it's not
cool.
like a gory movie. It is just like there's like a couple of scenes where like someone gets scratched and bleeds a lot, and then there's like one other super bloody scene, and that's it. The rest of it is all just character setup and the weird shit that's going on around them. Yeah.
Are found footage movies usually bloody? Like I feel like they are.
No, because it depends, but it's usually they're done on the cheap because
exactly.
And so a big part of that is that's another reason why, and again, they go into this in the movie, which is great. It's you can take 5 people to make a found footage movie as opposed to the 30, 40, 50, 100 it takes to make a full studio film, because what you need is a handy cam and someone to hold a microphone, and that's it. And then like someone to do the editing. Otherwise, you don't really need that many people to make a found footage movie. So like, yeah. So that was, I recommend it to anybody who can find it. I watched it in 2D. Technically, the whole thing is supposed to be in 3D, but I don't have a 3D TV or monitor or all that. But and then it was actually produced and for one scene actually stars. This is going to lead into Tank Girl, I promise. But we got one more place. We got one more place to go.
Awesome.
So the reason that I knew about found footage is a podcast I've been listening to,
Mm-hmm.
which is called 80s All Over. It's
Okay.
a great podcast for anybody that likes 80s movies or just film in general. What they're doing is month by month through the 80s, going through the major film releases
Oh,
and
that's
talking about
cool.
every movie
Okay.
going out. So talking about not just the big classic stuff, but also the stuff that may have been forgotten and the stuff that was like huge at the time that no one even talks about anymore, like all of that. And the two guys that host it, Scott Weinberg and Drew
Mm-hmm.
McQueenie, I think their names are,
Mm-hmm.
they've been writing about film their whole lives. I think Drew McQueenie worked in like the film industry for a while and now writes for it. Scott Weinberg, I think, writes for Birth Movies Death now, and he's actually one of the producers on Found Footage, and he's in the movie.
Awesome.
They make a big deal like, oh, Scott Weinberg, the big horror movie writer, is going to come and talk about our film, so we got to make sure everybody's in good shape to talk about it. And of course, he shows up, and the whole thing's a disaster. But it's just like great that it's like he's the producer of the film,
That's
and they're
awesome.
talking about how great of this huge writer he is. Um,
That's
but
so meta.
yeah, it was super meta and super fun. But what I love about this show is I mean, it like really contextualizes the 80s and 80s film in general, where these guys are talking about, what's going on at the time when these movies come out, like the war on drugs is getting started in places and the AIDS crisis is starting and Reagan and all this stuff. But they do this really nice thing of like you get like a real idea of what the 80s were like because these guys grew up through it and not just the 6 or 7 movies that people talk about that come up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anybody that's ever listened to Say Report will know that Sejan and Devin have talked a lot about the 90s not feeling like they have that same kind of identity that the 80s had. I think largely because we are not in the 90s nostalgia yet. I think a lot of what we think about with the 80s is based on that like 80s nostalgia stuff that's huge now. And once we get to the 90s, we're going to feel that way.
Oh yeah.
And I can
totally.
guarantee you that one of the top 90-ish movies ever is going to be Tank Girl.
Yes.
Because Tank Girl might be the most 90s ass 90s
Oh,
movie
yeah.
I have ever seen. And I love every second of it. Starting with the fact that there's like a 3-minute stop in the movie so that they can do these random shots of her on the tank
Yes.
for no reason.
Yes.
It's like a 3-minute music video that just happens in the middle of the movie so we can
And then
and that's before the dance sequence.
they have a dance sequence to Cole Porter because like why not? I remember so the first time so Devin I don't know when Devin introduced this movie to me, but I was like a kid. I don't know how old. I don't know. I was probably like 10. It was when the first time I saw this movie. And the Cole Porter scene happens. I was not 10. I was definitely in high school because I made a Facebook post about it. So never mind. But the Cole Porter scene happens. I'm like, this is the greatest movie of all time. Like, this is the greatest movie of all time. This is the Rush of movies.
Yeah.
No.
So for anybody out there listening that has never actually seen Tank Girl, I'm sorry, we jumped right into how much we love it. Let me explain this because it also makes no sense when you're watching it.
No.
This is post-apocalyptic Australia.
Mhm.
Let's start with the fact
like
that the
Mad
movie
Max,
opens up with a
but-
shot of the Golden. Let's start with the fact that the movie opens with a shot of the Golden Gate Bridge, but this is post-apocalyptic Australia.
Yep. I haven't
it
seen
was
Tank
filmed-
Girl in so long, and yeah, I know. I remember
And it was
so
it was
much.
also it was filmed in New Mexico and Arizona. I looked up a bunch of stuff about the movie because I
Nice.
wanted to make sure I could talk about it.
Nice.
But like it was shot in New Mexico, like in my area, New Mexico and Arizona. But for some reason,
that's awesome.
the first thing you see is a bridge that, unless there's a bridge in Australia that looks exactly like the Golden Gate Bridge, that's the Golden Gate Bridge. But whatever.
Don't question
Also, no one has an Australian accent except Naomi Watts, who is obviously faking it because she's not Australian.
Nope.
So she was the only person that got the memo that this movie takes place in Australia.
Yep.
But it's like if Mad Max and Deadpool were mixed together to make this beautiful movie of this woman who's living with her boyfriend and a couple of friends and a couple of kids they take care of out in the middle of nowhere. They're siphoning water from the big bad guys who are like the water and power company. They get raided because the water people are evil, and everyone gets killed. The little girl gets taken away, and then she gets arrested by them. So after escaping prison, goes to save the girl, and then joins up with a bunch of mutant kangaroos to take out the water and power company. One of
I
them
love that.
being played by Ice-T. Thank you very much. The best part of the whole movie is that Ice-T plays just a very angry mutant kangaroo. Like,
I mean, if you're a mutant kangaroo, you deserve to be angry in some respects. But like, it's so good.
and
It's
the best
so good.
line is that this is before he's on Law and Order, and yet
Yep.
someone still turns to him and says, "What did you do before you were turned into a kangaroo?" "I was a cop." Well, there you go.
Yep. Yep. The
Oh man.
craziest thing. Okay, well, I can't say that sentence because this entire movie is crazy.
Oh, it's crazy top to bottom. It's
But
like
so the coolest part is that the water is there's that moment. I'm pretty sure this is right. Right? He like had Malcolm McDowell is the bad guy, which is great.
fantastic. Absolutely
Fantastic.
fantastic.
It was like my first introduction to Malcolm McDowell. Um, so he will never not be that crazy guy who who takes water from people to drink. Like he
Yep.
takes the water that is
Like that's
existent
his
in humans
that's
and
his
is
way
like
of killing people and torturing them.
yes,
Is just suck the
and
water out of
then
them.
drink their water. And it's
Uh,
like on the base level of that, that's fucking creepy. But there's so much else going on in this movie that it's like, it's just normal. It's just life.
it's weird because like you think about the fact that like sci-fi movies and stuff, like some of their biggest problems are world building. It's like we don't
Mm,
understand the world that you have built.
yeah, no.
Mad Max, it even took them like forget the fact that between Mad Max and Road Warrior, the world completely changes and they have to like reset it. But this movie is just like you get a voiceover from her at the beginning that's like, "Hey, well, it's 2033 and there's no more water." The end.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Everything else is just, I guess, we'll just go with it, which is why it's okay that there's like a nightclub that they go to and
Oh yeah.
which is where they have the whole dance sequence in like there's this huge water company, but it also looks like there's no like who would be buying the water from them because
Hmm.
they're apparently not allowing people to use the water they're taking. But who
And
cares?
pretty
It
much
doesn't matter. Big evil corporation.
yeah, it's crazy. And pretty much everybody lives underground, right? Like you it's cuz it's so sandy, like there's such a drought that you pretty much have to live underground or else you
Right,
will
in order
just
to
be
stay cool. Right.
killed like instantly pretty much.
Oh
Oh god.
man.
It's so I loved Tank Girl so much the first time I watched it. Like I wanted to be Tank Girl for Halloween. I wanted everything to do with Tank Girl, and incidentally enough, I've never read the comics.
So
Um,
about that, so we talked about that because I had not either
yeah, no,
until yesterday when I went on Amazon and apparently the Kindle version of the original classic Tank Girls, they're like
hmm
$1.50 to
really?
get the original, like not the whole set, like each. So like I've
Yeah.
got I think it's 12 issues are the original 12 runs and each one of them is like $1 or $2. So I've got
That's
the first two sitting on my phone that I've been reading. And when I talk about a 90s comic, oh my God,
really.
it's like
Oh my god.
it's black and white. It's busy. There's like 1,000 different things going on. You got to try and figure out where the hell your eyes are supposed to go. Like it's walls of text in places because they're like everyone's gonna have like these huge
Yeah.
monologues for things. It's oh man,
Hmm.
and then it's just like and then it's just like yep, I'm just gonna roll in and kill a bunch of people and leave. And unless this comes up later in like the later comics, I'm pretty certain that the film, which was developed along with the original creators, is like a prequel to all of it because she's already got
Mm.
the tank
Yeah.
in issue one. So like so I don't think that the movie is using any sort of existing story,
Yeah.
which
No.
I'm actually okay with
It definitely
the idea
feels
that
like an
like
origin.
right, it feels like an origin story, and also like since the comic doesn't really seem to care that much about its own world building, like the movie just kind of doing a little bit
Mm.
and just going with it works perfectly. Um, I also just love the fact that she is basically proto Deadpool. Like
Oh.
I would like I have no doubt that the guys that wrote at the very least wrote Deadpool. I don't know about the people that write the comics, but the people that wrote the Deadpool movie, I think have watched Tank Girl
I
because
think yeah, I get
because she's
that.
making references to crap that don't make any sense for her to be making reference to.
Yeah.
She references Baywatch.
Yep.
Now it's 1993 or 1995 when that movie comes out, so obviously we all know what Baywatch is. The problem is in the movie it's 2033 and she's like a 20-year-old woman. There's no way she knows what
Yeah.
Baywatch
No.
is.
Um. It's because there is like fourth wall breaking too. Like,
A little bit, yeah.
but
And then there's like, yeah,
but it's
especially
like
with
this
the
weird fourth wall breaking that she's not like talking to the audience, but she's talking to a audience.
she's just like talking
Like,
to
she's
herself
just
because she's a
talking.
little insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just like,
But it still feels like fourth wall because there's no one else around.
yeah.
Or it feels like she's talking to you.
And then there's like these like interstitial things of like animated sequences that were
Yep.
done by the guys that did the original comic, where they're just straight up like winking at the camera and talking to the audience there and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you know
So good.
the other thing about the animator of that original comic, though, the guy who drew the original Tank Girl?
No.
He created the gorillas. So the guy that
shit.
yeah, the guy that drew the original Tank Girl comics is also one of the creators of the gorillas, and so which I think is
That
perfect.
makes so much sense. Oh, that just blew my mind. Wow. That's awesome. That is so freaking cool. And like now that like I'm looking at it, like I'm comparing the art styles and I'm comparing the freaking characters to each other. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
Yep.
cool.
I know. I was the day I learned that too. I was like, well, I mean,
Well,
that's one of the few things I've heard recently that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I'm not going to focus on anything else for the rest of the day.
I know. I had to like process that for a little bit.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So, and then other than Tank Girl, I got the new Mario Party.
Oh yeah.
It's a Mario Party. I've never not enjoyed a Mario Party game. I'm enjoying this one. It's a little different because it's strange because there's only 4 boards. Usually there's a little bit more, but they have tried to expand the variety in different ways, where it's like every board you can play as a regular Mario Party game, and then they have what's called Partner Party, which is a 2-on-2 team thing, and so they use the boards for those in a different way.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then they've also got like they've got like a whole rhythm game section that you can go into that's specifically just these like rhythm games and using the motion controls.
Huh.
And this really cool one that's you're working as a team rafting down a river, and then every now and then you hit a balloon that will send you into a cooperative mini game. And so it's just get to the end before time runs out.
Yeah.
And so they basically have just like, rather than put like a ton of stuff into it, they just like spread it out among a bunch of different ways to play, which I think is really cool.
That's
And
interesting.
and I've done all of this with computer characters.
Nice.
Which was the weirdest thing, playing that Partner Party with like a computer partner, because their whole thing is like, just remember, like, you can strategize with the person you're playing with. So one of you can go this way, another one can go that way, and back. And I'm like, I can't actually. I just had to kind of guess what the computer wanted to do and then figure out my own strategy after that.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Like it's like, yeah, you and your computer friend are partners now. It's like, oh god, oh great. Just me and Waluigi trying to figure out who's going which direction.
That just sounds difficult in any situation.
It's like sitting here at my in front of my TV, like, Waluigi, no, go that way. No, go that way. Where are you going that way? No, I'm
Just
supposed to go this way.
listen
Go
to me.
this way.
Oh my god. Ridiculous.
That's pretty much been my week.
That's fun. That's
So-
fun. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah, just a jam-packed week. Yes, to talk about the worst people in New York. Yes, let's talk about.
The worst people in New York. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, okay, so the show we're about to talk about is called Friends from College. It is a Netflix original series, I believe.
Yes, and I want
And,
to say 2016.
2017.
2017 was last year.
Yeah, it was last year. So, a friend of mine, she goes to school in Vermont. She goes to and she was tasked with an assignment from a professor to watch a bunch of these like different. It was for a screenwriting class. They had to watch a bunch of pilots for television shows on Netflix. One of which was Cheers. I don't remember the other one, and the other one was Friends from College. So I remember her telling me this assignment, and I'm like, oh, Cheers is great. That's fantastic. Like, I've never heard of Friends from College. So I immediately added it to my list because I was like, if you have to suffer through it, I'll suffer through it with you. And then I didn't watch it for a year until Friday. Now this assignment has been long over. She texted me. She talked about it last year with me, and so I'm like, well, I'm finally gonna watch this. Like, I understand that the thing is over, but I'm still curious as to why you would assign this show. So I started up, and I'm like, this is the worst pilot
And I remember
of a show that I think I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and I remember like when it came out, it got a bunch of praise, and I think it's because it's
Did
mainly
it?
I think it's because it's mainly comedians doing dramatic performances, and
Yeah.
people were used to that. Like,
But they're
for whatever
trying to be
reason.
funny. But like
It's
it's like not
it's the
it's
weirdest. It's the worst dark comedy because we're
yeah.
bad people, so laugh at the fact that we're bad people, but
And
it
that
doesn't do anything to make them redeeming in any way
no,
that
not
you. Yeah.
whatsoever. So yeah, it's Keegan Michael Key, it's Kobe Smulders, who those two, I love those two. Annie Parisi? Parse? Par what is that?
I recognized.
Paris? Annie Paris? Who
I
I've
don't know. I
never seen.
recognized everybody, and I knew three people's names. You said
Yeah.
two of them already.
Fred Savage.
Yep, that's the other one.
Nat Faxton, and then Jay Park. I want to say is how you pronounce her name. I could be pronouncing that wrong. But yeah, so it's these 6 friends from college, and I don't know how time works in this world. So it's basically Keegan Michael Key and Kobe Smulders are now married, and
Yeah, it's been 20 years from college.
it's
So are
been
they all in their early 40s, is that
they
they said?
are. So yeah, so Sam, who's played by Ernie Paris, she like makes a comment of how she buys herself a truck for her early 40th birthday present. So
Right.
they're 40 years old, which
Which for
means
me, I mean, okay,
which
so I fell off of How I Met Your Mother. So I don't know if they ever addressed Robin turning 40 in that
I
or
don't
close to it or anything like
think
that.
so. I don't
But
know.
of this entire group of people, the only one that I can even like remotely go, yeah, they're 40 is Fred Savage. And that's because I knew what he looked like as a child from Wonder Years.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very possible the rest of them are in
Are
fact 40 years old,
exactly.
but they all to me like I'm still at a place in my life where I just go like, oh yeah, everyone's in their mid 30s unless you tell me otherwise,
Yep.
because otherwise I'm going to feel old if it turns out that they're older than me and I'm already 30. Okay, anyway.
Oh yeah, no, I'm so bad at ages and all that. But the worst thing about it is that so Ethan, who is Keegan Michael Key,
Right.
Sam, Annie Paris, Nick, Nat Faxon, who I don't think his name ever is mentioned in the first episode.
Is
I
that
only
Fred Savage's
like
partner?
no. Billy Eichner is Fred Savage's partner. Who like I like Billy Eichner. I like him in the show.
Oh, the
And
doctor. Wait, the
the
fertility doctor?
yeah, that's Felix.
I could have sworn. Well, I knew. Okay, I could
Yeah.
have sworn that. Okay,
Yeah. So there
I'm
yeah.
obviously I missed something because
Yeah, no.
Anyway.
Nick is the guy who's in a bunch of bunch of movies, who is always like a side character who has like a couple funny jokes and he has goofy teeth. He's the guy who gives the I hope this doesn't offend anybody. It does not offend me. He gives the cunt speech.
Yes. Okay. See, no, I
Um,
thought because what happened. I can tell you exactly what happened. Is that in that first episode? I don't know. The lighting was really weird
The
in this,
lighting
by
is
the way.
not good.
So when Fred Savage introduced his partner, I thought he was introducing him. I didn't realize he was
Well,
introducing
that
Felix.
okay,
When they
but
all showed up and were like all
that
like
scene is
loud
awful.
and right because everyone's like loud and obnoxious and it makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw like kind of a dark shadow
Yeah.
on his head, and then I saw the turtleneck.
Yes, I get
And so
you.
I assumed that was the same guy later, who is also wearing a turtleneck, which is not helpful. People, come on.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the first meeting where they all meet together, except for Sam, because Sam and Ethan are having an affair even though they're
Right.
both married, and it's been going on for 20 years. If you've been having sex for 20 years, just marry each other. Why even marry other people? Like, at that point, you're basically married. You have feelings for each other, and, like, you clearly have feelings for each other other than just sexual feelings. Like, they clearly care about each other. But in the same instance, they don't. Because she's a real bitch when it comes to his books. And
I mean, that's the other thing is that, like the amount to which they don't make you feel good about their affair and relationship versus their marriages, which is usually what you have to do in order to go like, oh yeah, no, these people should leave their families and be together.
Yeah.
Like, you have to make, for some reason, you have to make one of those look better than the other. And in this case, it just looks like they should stay in their marriages. I don't see why they're having an affair is the problem.
It's just because it started in college. Her husband is really nice. Like, I really like
John. He's
John.
really nice. He's kind of a dummy, but he's really nice, which is really funny because he's such a jackass on Ally McBeal that it took me a minute to like adjust the fact that he's supposed to be the nice guy. Yeah. But I love the Kid Cudi speech. It's like, why don't you listen to? He's 4. You should be listening to Raffi. Raffi sucks. He likes Kid Cudi.
He likes Kid Cudi. Yes. So there are definitely parts of that show that are funny. There are funny like one-liners and all of that. And I will say the final shot of the first episode where Ethan and Sam are kissing each other upstairs and then the rest of the fence are just, I don't care about spoilers. And the rest of the friends are just in the bottom over by the pool. Like, that juxtaposition was really, really cool. And I wish the rest of the episode gave as much feeling.
Tried as hard as that
one shot. It's like they were like, we have a shot in mind. Let's try and make a TV show around it. And they did not hit the mark.
Yeah. And of course, they're talking about, so Keegan-Michael Key is trying to be a writer, and he's got this book going.
He is a writer. He's not trying to be a writer. He is a writer. Also,
so did they say if he had...
Before we go on, they went to fucking Harvard.
Oh yeah, don't even get me started on that part.
Harvard.
They just like pulled a freaking. I like to think that the reason they chose Harvard was so that you didn't question the fact that despite like Keegan-Michael Key not having a job, they apparently have. And Kobe Smulders like worked for the ACLU in Michigan, and now they're moving to New York. They apparently have enough money to still like get nice apartments in New York and have houses out in Connecticut and all this other stuff. Like that the Harvard thing just feels like, okay, just so you know, we're gonna pull a rich school out of our asses so that you can all you don't question the fact that they all have way too nice of an apartment in places to live than they should.
I really feel like this show gives a bad light to Harvard grads because like they're just so terrible to each other and to themselves. Like they're
I would even say that. But I would even say that like even like Fred Savage actually comes out looking like the nicest one out of all of them because I think he's actually ultimately trying. I think he's trying. I think obviously like so here's the thing. So here's what I wanted to talk about with Keegan. Has he published before? Because it sounds like this is his first book after 20 years of being out of college. I got the impression that this was his first book that he was trying to sell to his friend's publishing company.
I don't get it either. That's why, like, time makes no sense in this. Because also, before we go into that, Lisa, Kobe Smulders, is 4 years younger than them. She was a freshman when the other ones were seniors.
Right.
But then there is a moment where Keegan-Michael Key is like, you guys are making me chase down a dream that I had when I was 18, so just stop. There's no way Colby Smulders knew you when you were 18 if she was 4 years younger than you. Because you don't graduate college
until you're like 22.
Until you're 22, 21, 22. Like,
it's
does
all
not
over the place.
make sense. Unless you also went to high school together, which, like, fuck. You guys just, like, are so stuck in the past.
Yeah,
which, like, it's so bad. But anyways,
and who knows? Maybe the end of the series actually like addresses a lot of these problems. The problem is that I don't care
want to
about getting to
watch
the
it.
end of the series. But yeah, so Fred Savage tells him that this book he's writing is not, people
Gonna
aren't
sell.
into it, and so he should go into young adult fiction, which is like the big thing right now. And then they go into this really shitty tirade about young adult fiction that sucks.
It's terrible.
It's the most it's the most pretentious idea of a young adult fiction, which I know people have.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you would think that creative people would understand differently.
Yeah,
Like
no.
I had this, like, it just feels like they had an axe to grind about young adult fiction for some reason.
Yeah,
And it's
and I
oh,
don't get it either, because honestly, I like young adult. I think those stories are cool. I think it gives kids something to imagine. But his whole thing of like it's for adults who refuse to grow up and blah blah blah, and I'm like, hey, you're a hypocrite because
you're clearly
you're
refusing to
literally
grow up.
doing that in your everyday life. But so Storm is his book, but it's won awards and it's been read, so I don't
understand why he's having trouble selling it to a publisher. Yeah, see, that was the thing that was confusing to me.
I mean, yes, it's
like,
won awards that no one's heard of, but it still is won awards. Someone somewhere thought it was good enough to win an award. So why? Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense.
Man.
And so to go back to the assignment that my friend was given, it was, like I said, it was a screenwriting class, and it was like to like talk about how you tell a story or how you try to like convey a story or start a story. This is not it. And I don't know if the teacher's intent was to be like, look at these shows and compare them and tell me which one is a good start and which one is a bad start. Or if it's like, learn from these successful television shows. Which, like, if I was in that class, first of all, the title of my paper would be Harvard, fucking Harvard. And then I would go on to explain how it was a terrible pilot and does not make me ever want to touch that show again.
Right. And it's, I'm just like, I'm looking up something really
quick about
quick
it?
because there was something I had heard about when it first came out, and maybe I'm just wrong, but there's a possibility that a good portion of the show is improvised. There's something
really?
about about improvisation in the past of this show. Either the cast have all known each other for years and did improv in the past, and that's why this cast is together in this show, or the show itself is improvised. But there is something about improvisation in the past that I just not finding it. So I don't know. But it's just this weird. I think its biggest problem is that because it has the dark comedy aspect, and especially because you've got someone like Keegan-Michael Key at the forefront of it, I think that it's supposed to be much more of a drama than it is a comedy.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really, but the problem is that I don't think they're comfortable with it just being a drama. Like, honestly, if this were a 2-hour, like, indie film, I think they could probably do something with it.
But it's been made before. It's been made before, and it's called St. Elmo's Fire. And thank you, Devin. I will give him all the credit for that, because I was talking to Devin about how I was going to talk about this on tonight's show, and he's like, well, and I said that I wanted to take notes on actors and stuff. So he started it up, and I'm like, I do not want to watch this again. Please get it off. So I rewatched it right before we recorded, and he was like, yeah, so it's basically St. Elmo's Fire, which is a terrible movie.
I have actually never seen it, so I can't comment on that.
So you've seen Friends from College. You've basically seen St. Elmo's Fire.
Seen one episode and 10 minutes of episode 2.
Yep.
Oh,
You've basically seen St. Elmo's Fire.
That 10 minutes of episode 2. Oh my God.
Oh, it's so bad. First of all, I want to go to Jekyll and Hyde. I want to go to that restaurant because, like, that is awesome to me. But it's also like, oh, can we talk about that kiss? It felt so good.
Yeah, that's right. After 20 years of a sexual affair, that kiss is what we really got to talk about right now.
Yeah, seriously. Like, it is one of the most cringeworthy shows that I have seen in a long time. And, yeah.
And that's it. That's our review. That's our review of the day on that one.
If you want to watch it, feel free. I don't recommend you do, but feel free. Um,
There was something more positive you wanted to end on, and I can't remember what it was.
Oh, it was the fact that yeah, we will
Oh,
end it
yes,
on
no, I
this. So
remember.
it was the
Yes,
fact that I started going to a gym,
you
and
accidentally did something.
yeah, I accidentally did something at the gym. So at the gym there are classes, one of which is a kickboxing class. It's more like shadow boxing. We're not actually hitting bags or anything. And I've done another kickboxing class where we do hit the bags, so well, whatever, that's another conversation for another time. So I was like really interested and really getting ready to go to this kickboxing class. I've been to it before and I was like, this is a good workout. I'm going to continue with this. I'm sorry that I just burped on mic. Anyways, so I was all ready to go to it last night. I get there and I call up my friend who was meeting me there and I'm like, hey, I'm going into the class. I'll see you when you get here. And I'm standing there and the time I went before, the class had already like basically it started right on time. It started right at 7 o'clock. So it starts and it's probably maybe like 7:05. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I mean, it's 5 minutes. Who cares? Like, I'll give it to them. But the instructor hadn't even shown up yet. So I'm like, that's weird. The instructor isn't even here. But there's like a classroom full of people. All right, I'll give it. Whatever. People's schedules are weird. And then an instructor who I've never seen before at the gym walks in. I'm like, well, that's strange. All right, we'll just pass. We'll just move past it. Whatever.
Just
And
the number of things that are like, here's one red flag after another.
and I'm just like, whatever. Let's
I'll
move
figure it out.
on.
I'll
I have
figure
to
it out.
spend an hour here anyways. So then my friend was like, I'm going to be late. I know the class is going to start without me. That's fine. He comes walking in, and he's like, hasn't that started? And I'm like, no. Like, this is it's very strange. So whatever. And the music starts, and it's really, like, upbeat, kind of, like, salsa-esque music. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Okay, whatever. And we start the warm-up, and it's basically like a 1-2 step. For a warm up. And I'm like, oh, what a weird warm up. And I look over at my friend and he's like, I'm pretty sure we're in a Zumba class. And I was like, no.
Oh no, you've been Zumba. Oh no.
It's like, and I was like, no, it's not a Zumba. It says kickboxing. Like, we're here for kickboxing. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, this is just the warm up. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's gonna pick up. It'll be fine. And then we go into a move where we're like playing air drums.
Yeah, that's definitely a Zumba. That is definitely a Zumba.
I was like, oh shit. And I look back at him and he's like, this is Zumba and I'm going on the bikes. Bye. And he just left the class. And he just walked out. And I'm like, well, I need to stay now. And I kind of want to see what it's like. Maybe, and there was still a thought in my head that it was still kickboxing.
Not even anymore. You haven't even reached the point of maybe I just want to check out what Zumba is.
Nope,
now you're still holding on to the idea
I'm
that
still
you
holding on to the idea that this is just a warm up. And then, like 20 minutes into the class, I'm like, this is fucking Zumba. I accidentally took a Zumba class.
Oh man.
And then to add insult to injury, there were signs posted saying tonight's kickboxing class has been replaced with Zumba. Sorry for the inconvenience. And I did not see those at all.
Man.
Just blazed right past them.
Oh,
it was
dear.
interesting. Zumba is a workout.
I mean, yeah. I
It's,
remember someone I used to work with at Target actually ended up like going almost full time teaching Zumba classes as like their thing.
It's
They're-
it's crazy. It's a weird thing to do, but because it's like dancing, right?
Right.
But it's a step above dance. Like, I like dancing. I took dancing electives in high school and everything. Like, I really do like dancing. And dancing is an immense workout. Like, you have to be fit to dance. But Zumba takes it to, like, another level. And like, it's like I'm dancing,
Ah,
but I'm not
the CrossFit of dancing.
dancing. Like, there were even points where I'm like, I'm just gonna do a 1-2 step. That's all she's doing. And then she would like add something else into it, and I'm like, no. That's not what my brain wants to do right now. Like, there's like arm movements that you have to do. It's crazy. I mean, it's a good workout. I might do another Zumba class now that I've done it. So like, worked out for the good. But like,
Got your one freebie, and now they're gonna hook you in.
Oh my god, yeah, it was crazy. So that's my little positive ending to this episode.
Oh God, I just can't imagine. Like, I just don't know how I would have reacted in that situation. I don't know if I would have just frozen up entirely, or I just don't
I know.
know. Oh my
And it was
God.
like, I cannot do these moves. Whatever. People want to make fun of me, they can go screw themselves.
Oh, you're in a Zumba class on a Wednesday night. What do you have to laugh at anybody for?
Exactly, right? Oh god. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
There you go. I got nothing else. I'm good. It's been a loaded week.
It
so.
has, yeah. Do I exit the show? I think.
Oh, I don't know. Go ahead. You do
All
it.
right, I'll do it. This has been the Say Report Jr. I hope you have enjoyed this crazy episode. Really hope that you heed our advice and watch the things that we told you to watch and not watch the things that we told you not to watch. But if you have any suggestions or comments or concerns or anything like that, you can follow us on Twitter at sayreportjr, and tweet at us or message us or whatever you crazy kids want to do. You can also follow us on YouTube, Say Report Jr. as well. And you can also follow us individually on Twitter, and I am at Dale's Brain.
And I am at Zerwisky.
Oh, I'm stuck. Ow. And yeah, that's really it. Hope you liked it. Subscribe. Keep listening to us. I think we just need to go get ice cream.
I think so too.
I think this needs to end. Take it away, Liz.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your hosts Dale Decker and Zach Serowick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.